Good evening. It's Monday, January 6th. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Tonight, we're staying on top of the tense situation between the U.S. and Iran. We're seeing some of it locally here in San Diego with heightened security at military bases. There's a lot of discussion about the chance of another war in the Middle East. We'll show you how more troops are on their way, plus the political debate playing out in Washington. And for a lot of people, it was back to work after the holidays, but for military families and those who work at local bases, it was anything but routine. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman begins our coverage with the heightened security. He is live right now in Coronado. Matt?
Yeah, Maya, right now we're at Naval Base Coronado. Not if you can tell behind me, not a whole lot of cars here though right now, but with these new heightened security measures, 100% ID checks, there was a long line to get in here, definitely caused some traffic. Part of those heightened security measures, the DoD's trusted traveler system, which basically allows members of the military to bring friends and relatives on base, has been suspended indefinitely. This just one of the many heightened security measures being implemented here and across the country at U.S. military bases.
Longer lines, there'll be more security at the base. You'll see a little bit harder force there as a presence, probably some random measures of even vehicle searches, so things that'll take it longer to get onto the base.
Mark Balmer is a retired Navy Rear Admiral who now runs the San Diego Military Advisory Council, a local nonprofit that acts as a liaison between the military and the community.
People should be more aware that there are a lot going on in the world right now, a lot of terrorism. It's been happening all across the world. It happens so often. Sometimes we get a little too used to it. We don't see it as often here. We haven't seen anything in our region here. We've been very fortunate. When you make your base entrance tighter and tougher, you discourage any acts of violence as well. They'll go and look for a softer target.
Balmer says heightened levels of security could be in place for a while as tensions between the United States and other countries are growing.
Think back what's happened over the last few months. There's been attacks on oil tankers. There's been an attack on a U.S. embassy. There's been an attack on a base in Africa. There's a lot that's been going on anyway. It's not just a single threat coming out of Iran that would cause us to want to be at a higher security level.
Yeah, now these heightened security measures are coming after the U.S. killed a top-ranked Iranian military commander, but the military isn't providing any details, saying in a statement they aren't discussing specifics, but that security and awareness is being increased at all installations. And obviously that's happening right here in San Diego, too. We're out here at Naval Base Coronado. We did have a chance to talk to some members of the military and their family about some of these delays. Now, they say being in the military, nothing is run-of-the-mill, so these are just kind of expected. They're just kind of rolling with the punches here. In terms of when these security measures were lifted to such a high place before, we asked them, they couldn't really remember a specific time, but they say anytime there's like a shooting at a nearby military base, they have these same sort of procedures in place. Here at Naval Base Coronado, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Thanks for that report, Matt. A massive public funeral was held today for the Iranian general killed in that strike. The streets of Tehran were filled as Iranians turned out to mourn Qasem Soleimani. That includes the country's supreme leader who wept over the casket. The U.S. blamed Soleimani for killing American troops in Iraq and of plotting new attacks. And today, a White House advisor criticized Democrats for questioning the attack and claiming they are not being updated by the White House.
We've got Menendez and Chuck Schumer chest thumping and demanding that he do this. They know that Congress will be, that they will be briefed.
When are they going to be briefed?
It could start as recently as this week. That's up to the Pentagon. But they know that. They're just doing this for show.
And the attack on Soleimani happened in Baghdad. And over the weekend, the Iraqi parliament voted to have U.S. troops leave the country. However, Defense Secretary Mark Esper says there has been no decision made to withdraw. Over the weekend, we saw images of American troops at airports on their way to the Middle East. The sudden deployment is largely affecting soldiers from North Carolina. Natasha Chen tells us how the community there is lending support.
We ask you, God, to give comfort where comfort is needed.
At Berean Baptist Church's Sunday night service, family members of soldiers being deployed were asked to stand. At least 6 members of this Fayetteville, North Carolina church are on their very first deployment. The 1st Brigade of the 82nd Airborne Division has trained for this. They run drills to go from getting that phone call to boarding a plane in a matter of hours. Still, this deployment shook families right at the end of their holidays, with the first notification sent on New Year's Eve. This military spouse may have a smile on her face, but Sunday was rough.
Oh, I've cried a lot.
She found out at lunchtime that her husband, who was already deployed at training, would be rerouted to join others in the Middle East. We're not naming her or her husband for security reasons. She says an added challenge was he was not allowed to tell her exactly what was happening, so he told her to look up a particular news article.
It's hard not to hear it from the person that's really involved there and to have to read it from somebody else's perspective.
From Taylor Smith's perspective, he's doing all he can to support his friend who got a notice to deploy.
82nd's try to push back his deployment date as much as possible. But his wife is a high-risk pregnancy, and, believe he's leaving somewhere around Tuesday, and his wife is due Wednesday.
Smith is a veteran like many others at this church who know all too well what it's like to deploy. They say the comfort is knowing their family at home has a support system. A volunteer group called Deployed Love is doing its part in building that support.
I know it's scary, and we want to be able to make it a smooth flow for you and keep your kids, flowing through school year and not being stressed out as well.
Stressed out and concerned about when they'll see their loved ones again.
And that was Natasha Chen reporting. We have more coverage on kpbs.org, including our midday edition segment on renewed questions about the military draft. You can also stream the show on the KPBS Midday Edition podcast. After months of campaigning and debates, the 2020 presidential campaign is now a matter of weeks for Democrats. The first votes in Iowa will be cast February 3rd, and it's a tight race. A poll released Sunday by CBS News shows a three-person tie at the top: Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, and Senator Bernie Sanders, all with 23%. Senator Elizabeth Warren is not far behind at 17%. Other candidates ranked in the single digits. California's primary election day is March 3rd, and if people want to vote for one of those Democrats, they might have to take action, and soon. KPBS reporter Taryn Mento went to the county's election office for the details.
Today is an important deadline for San Diegans who vote by mail and aren't affiliated with a political party. San Diego County Registrar of Voters, Michael Vu, says it's the final day to tell his office which party's presidential candidates you want on your ballot.
We need to know in advance to send you the correct ballot option.
About 380,000 San Diegans were mailed a postcard last month with their options, but only 51,000 voters have followed up. That's only about 2,000 more than last week. So he's expecting a surge of responses in the next few days.
We need to know what of the four options they want us to send them when we send them their mail ballot.
People who haven't replied and want to vote for a Democrat, Libertarian, or American Independent candidate can request the correct ballot on the registrar's website. But if San Diegans want to vote for a Republican, they have to re-register with that affiliation. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
And it's back to work in Sacramento. Lawmakers begin a new session with a plan to revisit some of the biggest issues from 2019. Capitol Public Radio's Scott Rodd has more on what to expect in the weeks ahead.
Wildfire season may be over, but lawmakers are reviewing how power companies have handled fire prevention, especially their use of planned shutoffs. State leaders criticized PG&E for cutting power to millions of Californians late last year during dangerous weather conditions. San Diego Gas and Electric and Southern California Edison have also utilized shutoffs. And there's the issue of housing and homelessness. California's homeless population jumped by more than 20,000 last year, according to recent federal figures. A bill to increase housing density in cities stalled last year, but will be taken up again this month. And there's surely going to be cleanup of the controversial new law that makes it harder for companies to classify workers as contractors. Gig platforms, trucking companies, and journalists have challenged the measure in court. In Sacramento, I'm Scott Rodd.
It's a case that has changed Hollywood and fueled the Me Too movement. And now new charges tonight against Harvey Weinstein.
I'm here today to announce that my office has charged Harvey Weinstein with sexually assaulting 2 women in Los Angeles County. We believe the evidence will show that the defendant used his power and influence to gain access to his victims and then committed violent crimes against them.
How are you feeling today?
Today's charges will move forward after Weinstein's trial in New York. It begins this week. Daryl Forges tells us what to expect.
Harvey Weinstein appearing frail after back surgery, walking into a New York courtroom Monday, one day before his sexual abuse trial is officially set to begin.
Dear Harvey, no matter what lies you tell yourself, you did this.
Some of Weinstein's accusers spoke outside the courtroom where the media mogul appeared for a pre-trial hearing.
Whether it is this trial or in the future, Harvey will be held accountable for his actions.
The trial begins 2 years after bombshell stories in the New York Times and the New Yorker quoted women accusing the 67-year-old of sexual abuse, harassment, and secret settlements. Since then, more than 80 women have accused Weinstein of sexual misconduct. Weinstein faces 5 felony charges in New York in a case that focuses on just 2 of Weinstein's accusers.
Once the jury sits down and the jury hears that this is only about 2 women, I think they start to wonder how truthful those other circumstances are.
Weinstein's lead attorney says they're ready to go to trial.
We are here hoping to pick and find a fair jury, and we believe that that's going to be possible.
Jury selection begins Tuesday and is expected to take 2 weeks. The trial itself could last until March. Daryl Forges, KPBS News.
A familiar name in the grocery aisle says it's drowning in debt. Borden, a major U.S. dairy, is now declaring bankruptcy. The company is the second large dairy company to do so in recent months. The milk industry has seen a huge drop in consumption as food habits change in the United States. Borden is based in Texas and employs thousands of people. Government data shows milk consumption has dropped 40% since the year 1975. Overfishing is threatening a fish species in the Caribbean. It's called the Nassau Grouper. KPBS science and technology reporter Shalina Chatlani tells us how local scientists may help save the fish from extinction.
Scientists from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography and a Chicago aquarium are putting tags on the massive Nassau Grouper fish. These scientists are counting the number of fish in this aggregation or group. Ecologist Bryce Simmons is with Scripps.
While historically, there were as many as maybe 100,000 individuals at the largest of these aggregations. In a contemporary context, today, an aggregation of over 1,000 fish is one of the largest remaining aggregations.
Nearly 2 decades ago, when the Cayman Islands government found a large population of fish, it decided to protect them with the Marine Protected Area, where no one can fish. The government teamed up with Scripps researchers to figure out whether this strategy worked.
That weren't the best approach to management. It turns out, for instance, in efforts to tag fish and figure out where they're coming from, we found out that every single reproductive aged individual in the population went to the spawning site.
Those mating sites are outside these protected areas, so fishermen continue to fish there. But with scientists' help, the Cayman Island government changed their conservation policies to make these species protected during spawning season. Just over a decade ago, one population of Nassau Grouper had about 1,000. Now it has over 7,000.
For the species of Nassau Grouper, nobody's ever demonstrated recovering the population following overfishing. But once these locations have been fished out, once these spawning sites have been fished out, nobody's ever seen them recover before. We're the first to show that that happens.
Simmons says researchers plan to continue these tracking efforts. He also says the success shows how science can effectively shape government policies. Shalina Chatlani, KPBS News.
Watch out for those high winds. A warning is in effect for San Diego County, and we've also got rain on the horizon. KPBS reporter Joe Hong looks at how the combination plays out when it comes to wildfire concerns.
And it's showing the strongest winds over central San Diego County, where there are mountains.
The winds started late Sunday evening. In the mountainous East County, they reached speeds of more than 70 miles per hour this morning. Santa Ana winds in January are normal. Luckily, San Diego County got nearly twice the rain expected in late 2019. Brant Maxwell, a meteorologist at the National Weather Service, says this has greatly reduced the risk of wildfires.
Fortunately, this winter, we have had lots of rain during late November and December, so that the only effects of the winds are what the winds usually do, damage to trees or power lines, but not the fire weather threat because we've already had the rain.
But after a colder and rainier conclusion to 2019, Maxwell says the first few months of the new year will be just the opposite.
Will be a little bit drier than normal to sort of balance things out, with temperatures, instead of being below normal like they were in the past month and a half, they'll actually be a little bit above normal overall.
Joe Hong, KPBS News.
And the wind will calm down tomorrow, but what about the rain? How's that in the forecast? Here's meteorologist Marvin Gomez.
Hope you're having a great start of your work week. I'm AccuWeather's Marvin Gomez, and we've started the week on a warm note. Temperatures have been above average today, and we've seen some windy conditions as well coming over from the northeast as we go into the rest of the week. Take a look at some of your weather highlights here. We have a cool down on the way. That's going to take place heading into Wednesday. And then also for tonight and tomorrow, we're still going to be dealing with some windy conditions, but not as intense as what we had for this Monday. There is the possibility for some rain out there on the forecast. I'll get to those details in just a second, but so far in the last couple of hours, take a look at our satellite and radar image. There really isn't much action taking place throughout the state. As a matter of fact, throughout the southwest, it's been quiet. We are getting some wet weather way to the north in Washington and Oregon. As we continue here in the upcoming hours, we have some of those weather alerts still in effect. They deal with the wind, that high wind warning, and that wind advisory will continue in effect until noon tomorrow, Tuesday. Again, the wind won't be as intense as what we've had here for this Monday. Heading into tonight, looking ahead at temperatures near 48 degrees across San Diego. Mount Laguna coming down to 36. You're going to be closer to the freezing side of temperatures. Borrego Springs 41. And as we head into our Tuesday, we're still dealing with high pressure system in place. We're going to see dry weather throughout the region, but that high pressure system will weaken, and that's why those winds won't be as intense. To the north of California, we are going to see a little bit of rain in parts of the I-5 corridor, but here at home, San Diego County, looking at plenty of sunshine with very little clouds. Escondido coming up to 76. Still warm temperatures, Oceanside 72. Heading into Mount Laguna, you're looking at temperatures in the upper 50s. Your AccuWeather extended forecast for the coast indicates mostly sunny conditions for the upcoming days. Again, we have that cool down taking place on Wednesday, not only for the coast, but also across inland areas. And heading into Thursday, we have the potential of getting a brief passing shower. So Thursday afternoon in inland areas is when we might need the umbrella. Taking a look across the mountains, we are in the 50s Tuesday, but then upper and middle 40s for the rest of the week. Into the deserts, notice how the dry weather continues with mostly sunny skies for the rest of the week. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather's Marvin Gomez. Back to you.
It's an ecological disaster half a world away. By now, you've seen the devastating wildfires burning across Australia. Now, firefighters from Southern California are on their way to help. Paul Verkaman tells us about the unique experience they will bring.
The 20 veteran firefighters ground crews will come from here, the Angeles National Forest. This is the headquarters in Arcadia. They have been hardened by years of battling large wildfires, some of them deadly. You may recall the station fire, the Saddle Ridge fire last October. Both firefighters in Australia and in California have faced down the same menace: large eucalyptus trees.
The eucalyptus, from what I understand, are quite a bit different than what we have here. Broader leaves, and the casting is quite a bit further than ours here. And it just creates a more extreme environment.
You mean shooting out embers that can travel a lot further because of these leaves on these eucalyptus trees?
Correct, absolutely. The wind will carry it a much significant distance. There's a great amount of oils and whatnot in the eucalyptus, and when it catches, it goes up like a torch. It goes up extreme and torches.
And the firefighters here in the Angeles National Forest tell us the Australians asked for experts who can fell extremely large trees, cut those big trees down. They also tell us that much of the equipment will be provided by the Australians, and this unit is made up of such experienced firefighters that all of them have been a crew boss of sorts at some point in their careers.
These folks that we're sending are full-time firefighters here locally, and they work on engine crews, hotshot crews, aviation helicopter deployed crews, so they're used to this type of diversity of mission, basically traveling, breaking up into small squads, doing initial attack, meaning tackling fires early before they become large fires.
It's exciting. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to reciprocate to our Australian brothers and sisters the same assistance they've given us for many years that they've come over here and helped us.
They are scheduled to deploy on Monday. Reporting from Arcadia, California, I'm Paul Verkaman. Now back to you.
And the fires have also taken a major toll on Australia's wildlife, including the country's iconic koalas. The Australia Zoo's Wildlife Hospital has taken in 90,000 animals, but the need is even greater. Casey Treloar from Australia's 7 News tells us how the koala population in one area is nearly wiped out.
Burnt, injured and bewildered, koalas needing care are arriving by the trailer load.
They're all stunned.
Rick Fisher and his neighbours saved these ones from their properties, some barely clinging to life.
I think this little fellow, he's too far gone. Yeah, he's too far gone.
The survivors are under critical care at the Kangaroo Island Wildlife Park. It's been inundated, taking in dozens of severely burnt animals a day.
Unfortunately for some of those animals, the best thing is humane euthanasia straight away. There's just no chance.
The impact on wildlife is breaking hearts.
This environment has been completely changed, and I don't know that it will ever come back and be the same.
Park owner Dana has her hands full caring for these survivors around the clock.
Every day they're getting pain relief, all of these guys are. We're also treating them for severe burns on a few of them, minor burns on others.
This little orphan Ash was brought in 2 weeks ago when the fires first started. She suffered horrific burns to her hands and feet. Fortunately, she's on track to make a full recovery.
She is a great ambassador for what we can do for some of these koalas.
Hope amidst the devastation. Casey Treloar, 7 News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, the U.S. versus Iran. Threats continue from both countries after the U.S. killed one of Iran's most powerful generals. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
For many, the new year may mean finding a new job. And according to a new report by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, San Diego is a good place to look. America's finest city came in at number 29 nationwide on the best cities for a job list in 2020. San Francisco and Fremont cracked the top 5, respectively, at the number 3 and number 5. Scottsdale, Arizona came in at number 1. The biggest names in tech are in Las Vegas this week for the Consumer Electronics Show, but there's some pushback to this year's keynote speaker. Ivanka Trump will take part in a special presentation tomorrow. The daughter of President Trump has worked in the administration as a special advisor, often focusing on issues related to the economy and jobs. Some in the tech industry say her spot at CES should go to someone more deserving, but the head of the show is defending his pick.
For years, women have been fighting to have a stronger presence at CES in terms of keynotes and speaking positions. So it is nice to see a strong female leader take up a keynote at CES. However, it would have been nice to have someone a little more qualified. And this is, I think, why so many people are up in arms about Ivanka coming to speak here.
I say wait till you hear what she has to say and listen to it, because the fact is that there is a focus on jobs. She's highly respected by Republicans and Democrats. She's received the Internet Association's highest award. She's done a lot of other things.
CES has been open for 2 days of media previews. The full show opens tomorrow and lasts through Friday. The Hollywood awards season kicked off last night with the Golden Globes, honoring the year's best in TV and film. David Daniel has the highlights.
This is the last time I'm hosting these awards, so I don't care anymore. I'm joking. I never did.
Some of Golden Globes host Ricky Gervais's other jokes had to be bleeped out. The same went for Joaquin Phoenix's speech after he won Best Actor in a Drama for Joker.
There is no greater feeling than when someone tells me that I've made their day better with my show.
No bleeping needed as Ellen DeGeneres and Tom Hanks received special awards just because they're Ellen DeGeneres and Tom Hanks. 2 TV trophies apiece went to the comedy Fleabag, the drama Succession, and the limited series Chernobyl. Bong Joon-ho, Best Foreign Language Film winner for Parasite, urged audiences through a translator to see more foreign films.
Once you overcome the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles, you will be introduced to so many more amazing films.
Renee Zellweger won Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama for Judy. Top acting prizes on the musical or comedy side went to Awkwafina for The Farewell and Taron Egerton for Rocketman. Longtime collaborators Elton John and Bernie Taupin got a standing ovation and their first ever award together for their new song from Rocketman. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood won a trio of trophies: Best Motion Picture Musical or Comedy, Best Screenplay for Quentin Tarantino, and Best Supporting Actor for Brad Pitt. And Sam Mendes won Best Director and Best Motion Picture Drama for 1917, about the horrors and the waste of war.
I fervently hope it never ever happens again.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
And congratulations to all those winners. The San Diego State Aztecs keep moving on up. The men's basketball team is now in the top 10. New rankings out today put SDSU at number 7 in the AP poll. They beat Utah State over the weekend, improving to 15-0 on the season. San Diego State and Auburn are the only 2 unbeaten Division I programs. They'll try to keep it going this Wednesday at Wyoming. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. I'm Maya Trabulsi from all of us here at KPBS. Thanks for watching. Good night.